Hello, everyone. It's Wednesday. It's time to talk to Ricky. Ricky, tell us first of all about your retreat this week, and I saw it on Facebook. You're celebrating the app, or Leela is the app, right?
Yeah, Leela's the app, and it was a company retreat. And like most companies, especially a lot of apps where we don't get to see each other in person. I think for a lot of we are a small team, but for a lot of the people on the team, we never met in person. And so there was a tiny little astrology conference out in the desert, and so we decided to meet, and it was just fun getting together and sharing ideas. And everyone on the team are into astrology. They're astrologers, so they have their astrological opinions. So it was a fun debate, and we got a lot of energy for the ideas moving forward and what we're creating. And an idea that came out of it for me was what we're creating really is an astrological lifestyle brand. you know and what I would add to that, it's specifically the kind of astrology that we do, right? So it's a lifestyle brand that supports becoming, a lifestyle brand that supports becoming.
So, when you say it's a lifestyle brand, what do you mean?
So when I first started studying astrology, by the first 10 years, it was me by myself, literally in a closet, in a locker, reading books and not really having anyone I can talk to about it. It's just me, you know.
Uh-huh.
And then I met my wife and my astrology teacher right about the same time. And so and she started taking classes with me. So her and I started talking about it, and because we were both into it and loved it, it started to become part of our lifestyle, you know, like our daily conversation, you know. And the side effect is we both learned it on a deep level, but it improved the quality of our lives, like a hundredfold, if even more. And so, and for us, we notice people studying astrology and helping people, but we don't see a lot of people living it. And I think because we don't really have like an example of how to even do that. So that's what we're creating.
Oh, that's so cool. I actually, honesty moment, I actually force my partners and people in my life to live astrology. Like when they're like, if they were like, "No, I'm not into it," I'm like, "Yeah, you're not my thing."
Yeah.
Like because like I think astrology enhances life so much. I'm like, how can you ignore the clock of the moods? I don't get you. Like, so yeah, I get that. Wait, so was Stephen Forrest at this thing?
So he lives in the desert. It was his. So we didn't go to. That's the conferences around him, but he creates all the. He's a co-founder, creates all the content for Leela. So he was there. Yeah, we went over
Okay.
his house. He loves to make drinks. It's like his thing. So, and every time you go into Steve's, you're getting a little tipsy.
I want you.
It's
Did you
great.
tell him about our show?
Oh, I should have. I did not. He'll be into it. He'll really get a
I'll
kick out
tell
of
him.
it.
Fine, I'll tell him.
Yeah, he'll get a big kick out of it.
Yeah, no, he's cool. I actually love his chart so much. You know, when I was teaching at the Portland School of Astrology, some of the students got all mad at him, and I was like, I like that guy. I mean, I don't know. Just because, I mean, any professor gets people, students get mad at them sometimes. So it's like I don't even blink an eye at that. But I've always really thought he was such a wise person, and
Oh,
um,
oh,
you know,
yeah.
I don't remember his
He's
chart, but he has like Jupiter and Capricorn rising, or I don't remember it, but something cool.
Yeah,
So
it's cool. Yeah, he's in my system, his strongest planet. He's a really strong Sun, really strong Jupiter, and in Capricorn. So it's like this old man kind of wisdom.
yeah.
It's like when we're having business conversations. He'll say, "I'm old and I don't know anything," and then he'll say something brilliant. And we're like,
That humility factor is part of being wise, is
yeah,
at least acting humble.
yeah, yeah. And he's got a South Node in Scorpio, um, in the 12th house, and the like as my mentor, like I think the greatest gift he gave me is there's nowhere he's not afraid to go anywhere, anywhere the chart, like he's not afraid at all,
Mm.
you know.
Oh,
And like just seeing him do that in real time, it really gave me confidence of don't be afraid, because those places that you're afraid of when you see, those are typically the places that everyone is afraid of, you
mm.
know. And so you can be a great service to someone and you have a map so you can navigate a little bit by being willing to go there and to say what you see,
Wow.
you know. It's the greatest gift for sure.
That is the mark of a really one mark of a really good astrologer is that you can traverse any human topic with wisdom and philosophy. You know, whether it be death, if it's the eighth house, spiritual stuff, childhood stuff in the fourth house. So, um, yeah, that would make a really good astrologer, a really good reader. Um,
Mhm.
does he
this
still read
point
charts?
this point, yeah, he does. He's got like a 6-year waiting list. But he shut it off because he doesn't, you know, he would hate to die with people left on the list. What a great Capricorn, you know. So but what you said, I think, is probably the most important thing I've heard in years, you
Wow.
know. Right, the ability through philosophy and astrology to be able to give wise counsel in any situation. Oh,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I one time had a woman come to me, and I'm not breaking confidentiality, no one knows who, but I had helped her get pregnant through fertility astrology, and then the baby had Down syndrome. And I remember they called me to see if they should have an abortion. And a lot of people would say, well, you can't do that. And I took the case because I've read Ensoulment, which is the book about how the soul gets in the body. And I wanted to basically counsel her, having read this 2,000-year-old text on the soul's process of it and getting in there. And so, yeah, we had a great conversation actually, and I think I was able to help her along her path. But yeah,
oh,
I say yes to everything. Suicidal cases, I absolutely say yes.
yeah,
I'm like, can I help you become in a happier way? Like you were saying, astrology is the art of becoming. It's like someone who's trying to die is not becoming very well. Like it's our job to kind of help them develop back to happiness, So, do you take any case, or would you say no to stuff?
no, I don't say. I'm scared to death that I have no idea what's going to happen. But I'd say yes. I'd say yes to everything.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
interesting. Do you say yes to medical?
I say yes, but I am extremely humble, and I go slow. This, you know, I've gained a much greater appreciation for medical, mainly from studying my own chart. You know, and as a professional football player, I had um injuries that really changed my life, you know. And also as a kid, I was very sickly. And I find the slower I go with medical, it starts to become crystal clear,
Mm,
you know, crystal clear to the point where I get kind of self-conscious talking to people about it, because when you see the astrology of it, you realize, and I'm saying this lightly, that that most diseases are preventable,
mm,
you know.
interesting.
Yeah,
No. Well, you know about duty to warn or duty to yeah, you know what duty to warn is? It's like doctors and therapists have it like if they can help, they have a duty to help. And so people are always telling me they deny this case, they deny that case, and I was like, I'm acting under duty to warn. Like I can do medical at such a level with I can get into the dermatomes and I can draw pictures of what the chart's doing in there and stuff. And so then I get these cases of people who've been to the doctor for 10 years and they can't figure it out. I'm like, all right, duty to warrant, I'll take it, because
yeah.
we have a duty to try to help in some way. So, but you do massage therapy, right?
I do cranial sacral. Yeah,
So that is kind of medically in a way.
very much so. It's interesting. Like, part of I use some of the same skill sets in reading a body, reading the tissues, that I do in reading a chart. And I think the work that you've done is really taken my body work to a whole nother level, right? You know, the idea of, it's my wife has she got 3 planets in Pisces, you
Mm,
know, and so when I'm have my hands on her feet, I can hear the sun and Mercury and Venus. You know, I can feel them, the texture. I can feel the texture in my hands.
Wow, that is cool.
Yeah.
I love that way you say it. Wait, so okay, so you do craniosacral, you read charts, you teach astrology, and then you're also a computer coder. I know we're off topic, but this is kind of like getting to know you. So you also write code?
Yeah. I write only, well, mainly only astrological code.
Okay. But you do the
Right.
coding yourself?
So I'm not a production level coder, but I write all the code and come up with the concepts and the ideas, and then I pass it off to the professionals because they don't know anything about astrology. But you know, we were wasting a lot of money building the app because I didn't know anything about code and they didn't know anything about astrology, and so I just said I'm just gonna put my toe in the water and see if I like it. If I do, it could really make things more efficient.
Wow.
And once I dipped my toe, I fell in love. I was, you know, I'd stay up till 3 in the morning just and it worked because I knew what I wanted to build. I wanted to learn how to use the ephemeris, the digital ephemeris, how to write code to be able to do whatever I wanted. And
Wow.
it's been amazing, you know, because I was never an artist, so I never really could create anything. But with this code and what I know astrologically, I I'm making stuff, you know. Like I made an aspect finder, you know, an app where people can look up any aspect or any group of aspects and see in the past when that aspect was within orb, in the future when it's within orb. Um, so I just love creating tools for people to be able to appreciate how astrology is influencing their lives.
Wow. Well, that's so cool. You know, as I get to know you, I just realize more and more how many, I don't know, you're kind of a genius, and I like that about you. Okay. So, that probably embarrassed you, but I don't feel
It
bad.
didn't. It didn't. You know, so in my chart I have Mercury. I'm a Virgo rising, and I have Mercury opposing Uranus and squaring Saturn. So a T square with Mercury, Saturn, and Uranus. And when I was dumb, and my mom, you know, God bless her, Aries, you know, but when I was young, she called me stupid a lot, you know, and she wasn't wrong, you know, she wasn't wrong. But right, it's like the kid in class who has to stay in extra to learn to read, you know, because he puts more effort in, he takes off past the kids that are just naturally good readers, you
Mm,
know, right? And because the way my mind worked is so different, you know, I have to work harder to understand what's being said and work harder to help myself being understood. Just through life, I've gained an appreciation for, right, and I think a hard aspect, right? I think it's something, it's there because it requires effort. And there's some things in order to perceive and understand and communicate or teach, right? It requires looking at things differently and it requires a long time of serious study. And people that are willing to meet that challenge when it shows up in their chart, right? As they get older, right, and they've done the work, then what manifests through their mouth is brilliant. But so I'm not embarrassed because I've had to work hard for this.
well, so for the listener who doesn't really know astrology, because I know you have a lot of we have a lot of listeners who are just like you, just as a human. But so a Mercury, Saturn, Uranus. What's interesting about that, because I'm following what he's saying, Mercury and Saturn together can make you feel stupid when you're young. Like when you're 7 years old, 14, 21, there can be severe pressures to the mental quality and teachers telling you you're not good enough, or parents telling you you're not good, or you're being sensitive to that message, or you know. So Saturn Mercury people really struggle mentally when they're young, and then Mercury Uranus people are geniuses. So it's like they get flashes of intuition, they get epiphanies. And so here we have a person who's getting all these epiphanies and is struggling to do things the correct way mentally, or maybe you know the handwriting suffers at the age of 7, and then you know it's like, so this is a lifetime of kind of people critiquing the mental quality, but it's actually a genius in there. So it's like I see what you're saying is like you've had to kind of work to prove that you really are, you know, a genius in some way. I mean, in many ways. And I think I like that. That's cool. Well, I'm
Well,
glad I got
I
you at this ripe old age here.
exactly. Well, it's what happened when I found astrology, and I'd say that T square attracted astrology to me. Another way of saying that it's something inside of me that helped me appreciate the value of astrology, right? Because when I first started learning it, I was like, I'm never going to Saturn, I'm never going to understand this, But the other voice, right? You get that flash, and you're like, but I don't care, right? That little flash is worth it, so I'm just gonna keep on going. I'm just gonna keep on going, you know.
Oh.
And it took a while, but I just kept on going. And one day, it's like something like the flashes started to come more regularly.
Yeah, that's exactly how Mercury Saturn works. Is I will never be able to learn this thing. I will never. Is it the pressure mentally is so huge? And we would say that your soul takes it seriously. Like a lot of people don't take studies like this seriously, so they don't learn it at the level that you have. And I appreciate your Mercury. I have a Mercury Uranus conjunction. You have a Mercury Uranus opposition, so we are having gonna have all kinds of epiphanies together. So this is cool. So today our topic is Jupiter. And so let's talk about Jupiter and the two signs it rules. And let's start there. So Sagittarius and Pisces, which, okay, so you had said that there's the masculine sign, which is Sagittarius, and then the feminine sign would be Pisces here.
Yeah,
I have to tell you something about what the ancients say about this is they say that
please.
um, that Jupiter rules the buoyant parts of the leg. So Saturn is the hip bone and the ankle, it rules Aquarius, like it goes down into the ankle. So it's all the structural parts of the leg. But Jupiter and Sag rules the hip where you bounce, you go upwards like this, and the tip of the toe is Pisces where you push upwards with the buoyant parts of the leg. That's what they say.
Yeah, yeah. So when I think of Jupiter, what comes to mind is this idea that when we're born, we're not born believing in God, right? But we are born with the need to believe in something, you know, and we don't tend to think about it like this, but that need to believe is part of what's necessary for us to survive,
Hmm.
you know,
Huh.
and
So
you
it
know,
makes me want to define believe. Like, how do we define believe in something?
faith,
Have
right?
faith.
The faith, having faith. So to bring it home, I say we're not born believing in God, but we are born with the need to believe in something. That need to believe in something is the need to believe that some benevolent adult, you know, right, is gonna feed us and take care of us,
Mm,
and you're a mother, that feeling, right? The first time your your daughter got sick and she looked at you, that look of like make it go away,
mm,
you know and so it's easy to think about humans and God, okay, but that first relationship we had with the God was the relationship with that benevolent adult or adults that took care of us,
mm. Interesting.
huh?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think definitely Jupiter brings the feeling that everything is going to be okay. I always think about this with people with money. Okay, so when under a Saturn transit, no matter, let's say we have the same amount of money in our bank account and two different transits come through. So let's say we have $1,000 and Saturn comes through and we say like, I don't know if I can support myself with this $1,000 and I don't know if any more money will come in and I should save this money. And then let's say you have a Jupiter transit and you're like, everything's gonna be fine. There's no debtor's prison. I can go shopping with my $1,000. Everything's fine. But it's the same $1,000.
yeah, that's 100%. All right, so I'll see if I can tie this back to what I was saying. Okay, so I imagine parents and there's two kids. Okay, they're siblings, right? And the parents make it clear that if you do what we say, if you are nice to your sibling, okay, we will take you to McDonald's for a happy, right? Life will be good, okay? If you do not do what we say and you do not follow our rules, okay, life will not be good for you, you know? So my term for Jupiter is the religious urges,
Hmm.
right? And I'm kind of talking about it in related to humans, but I'm kind of talking about it as something a little bit deeper, You know, so I think as humans, we're, compared to the mineral kingdom, right? We are highly evolved, right? But the evolution is the same principles that are in nature are the same principles in us, just ideally more highly evolved, you
Mm,
know? And and so this idea of faith, it grew out of something we needed in order to survive, but now it's something that's so exhausted, it can exalted, it can connect us to something greater than ourselves.
mm,
And one more piece about the religious urge. When I was growing up in church, and I went to church a lot, right? There's always this idea of our earthly parents and our heavenly parents, our earthly parents and our heavenly parents, right? And this idea of we're not born believing in God, but we're born believing in something. It's like once we realize, that our parents are not godly, right? And we all have that point where we realize that, right? It's time to start to move that relationship to something greater than our parents, you know? And I
uh,
think since religion has really been lost, there's so many adults running around still worshiping their parents, way beyond the parents prove that they're worthy of the worship. Okay. Um, and so I think this is part of why Sagittarius, right? The journeys overseas, like the active journey to find higher truths. Okay, we might say higher truths than our parents. Okay,
mm.
higher education,
I like where
going
you're
off to
going with that,
college.
like that we can have faith in different things. And it starts with our small microcosm, but it gets a lot bigger.
It has to, right? As we mature, right, our level of faith has to mature. And there's certain things, this is dark Jupiter. There's certain things that if we were paying attention would show us they outlived, right? Right, no longer deserves our faith. Okay. But if the need for faith is so strong and we haven't gone on any kind of exploration to find something more expansive, that Jupiter needs to hang on to what we know was right, at least in the past. This
Hmm.
is part of dark Jupiter. It's like Jupiter too, the need to be right, right? But it's the need to be right. And so because I have the need to be right, I'm going to go on explorations and look for more truth, right? Or it's the need to be right. So I don't go explore because then I'd have to suffer not being right temporarily until I figured it out.
Well, so I looked up faith and it says a complete trust or confidence in someone or something, or a strong belief in God or the doctrines of religion. So basically, a complete trust or confidence. So Jupiter is,
Yes.
so if let's say we're going to travel to India, you have to have some faith that it will be okay, that the hotel you get to will be okay, and your tour guide will be safe, and it takes a lot of faith and trust and confidence in life in the world to go traveling, for example. Um, where Saturn, which is kind of an antithesis to Jupiter, is saying like no boundaries, structures, safety, all this stuff. So, I mean, Jupiter is the expansion urge. In order to grow, in the art of becoming, when we have a transit from Jupiter, our longing is to get bigger, or for our life to expand. To try something new, to add in a new
Mm,
thing.
mm,
And so,
mm.
I think it does take some confidence that life is good or the world is good in order to go out and grow forth in that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love what you're saying
So we can say good, and I know you relate to this, right? A lot of the ancient philosophers, right? That's the question, philosophy, right? Jupiter, Sagittarius. A lot of the ancient philosophers, they were asking questions about how to live the good life, how to live right, okay? How to live. And so part of it is everything will work out, but if we are living our dharma, if we're doing what we're meant to do, then to me it's built in that everything is gonna work out, right? It's like this is my journey, this is my adventure, and as long as I stay on the right path, I have nothing to worry about. Okay, again, going back to as long as you are nice to your little brother, okay, you have nothing to worry about. Okay? There is this sense of rightness, but where it gets twisted is when it goes into dogma, right, or orthodox religion. And this is why I think astrology will be the religion of the Aquarian age, because it answers the question so beautifully: what is right for me at this moment in time?
there.
You know?
Yeah, and what is right for each person changes per the transit. If you really live to your transits, what's right for you today will be different than 5 weeks from now when, Mars is hitting or whatever. What is dharma in your definition?
Well, yeah. So to me, everything comes back to the chart. The chart is the dharma, you know,
Is
and
that
right,
life
and
path and purpose?
it's the becoming, right? Our dharma is to become what we are meant to be.
Okay.
Is to live into our potentials, and the potentials manifest right through the experiences we attract to us. And I believe that all of the experiences we attract to us are there to feed and support our becoming. Like those are the ingredients we need, right, to cook our soup.
Well, I'm gonna have to look up dharma because from Greek philosophy, that's called your final cause or your telos, is this thing that
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
growing into
that's
become.
dharma. That's
That's
dharma.
dharma? Fascinating. I'm gonna add that into my mix there. Okay, so it takes some faith to evolve into your dharma from what you're saying. So this is an example. There's a point in my career where, the Christians got to me and they said, well, it's being an astrologer is a sin, you're being a false prophet and all this stuff. And I had to pray about it. I'd say, God, what is your will for my life? And I was shown an image of being an astrologer over and over. And this went on for 10 straight years. And so after 10 years, I was like, fine. I guess it's godly that I'm supposed to be an astrologer. I'm not, some anti-Christian false prophet. Like God's dharma or telos for me is to be an astrologer, right? So I had to find some faith, literally from the direct source, to that I had to start having faith in my dharma and stop questioning, because of what people were saying to me, So I think that's kind of what similar to what you're saying is that in order to become yourself, whether it be an auto mechanic or the best, rocket scientist in your area, you have to somehow believe that that's your path. Like, so do you think Jupiter is kind of brings us
Yeah.
that
So
piece?
no, there's a piece, right? This is what you just said is connected. I think when I'm talking about Sagittarius, talking to someone about Sagittarius, I say, imagine we're walking in a forest and we see a target, on a tree, and we're like, what is that? And then we look, and we see a bow and a quiver of arrows. And I said, Capricorn says, we gotta go. Let's go. I don't want to waste my time. The Sagittarius says, right? I wonder if I can hit that bullseye, right? I wonder if I can be right. Okay, I wonder if I can hit the bullseye. All right. And so he picks up the bow and he pulls it back and he shoots. Okay. And it goes way over. And again, Capricorn, I'm wasting our time. Come on, right? Sag is like, no, 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 no. I know if I just aim a little bit lower, don't pull back as hard, then I can hit the bullseye, right? And so they do it again. And this time it's too low, right? Right. Half an hour later, okay, they're starting to hit the bullseye, right? Someone walks by and says, how'd you do that? Right? The Sagittarius here will share their philosophy. Okay. I've learned that if I pull it back this far and I aim it at this angle, okay, that it'll hit the bullseye. Right.
Wow.
So, right, the philosophy. And then what you're talking about, right? And this is where the faith comes in. Right. When Stephen talks about Jupiter, sometimes he approaches things from the back door. When he talks about Jupiter, the question he asks is, where are you underestimating yourself? You know, that's his Jupiter question. And so it's like when the dream keeps coming back over and over again, or something just feels right to us. Okay, that's the equivalent of hitting the bullseye, right? And the faith is what allows us to believe that that means something. You
Wow.
know?
Yeah. Wow, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Well, okay, so this is so good. Okay, so tell me the difference between Sagittarius faith and Piscean faith, or what's the difference between these two?
Well, so let's just go right to the idea of, let's think of active faith and passive faith.
Hmm. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, yeah. To me, it
Well,
gets us. It gets us right there. Okay, it gets us right there.
uh, yeah, Sagittarius is more of a go out and do, live out your faith kind of person, where Pisces kind of sits back and, lets God seep in and a lot of divinity. Pisces are really into divinity and, you know, yeah, so I can see that where Pisces is more passive, praying, receiving, and embodying faith, whereas Sag is like, this will be okay, and this will be okay, and I know this I can work out, and they're like do, and Pisces is more like be, and you know.
here's here's another like an addition to that. So I think of active faith to me, you have to earn both of them, but it works better thinking of Sagittarius as active faith that you got to take your shot, you know, right? The reason he's hitting the bullseye is because he kept when he missed, he kept shooting, you know, right?
Wow.
That so it was earned faith, right? That's why when he shares his philosophy, it's from experience, right? Again, if I pull back this at this hard and this angle, I know I'm gonna hit it. So it's faith that comes through experience, right? Or even the know-it-all, right? The know-it-all who's traveled around the world, right? When they start talking, right? Everyone is happy that they know so much because they get to receive the benefit, right? The know-it-all that's just read books, right? People are like, shut up, shut up. Okay. So it's like you have to earn the Sagittarian kind of faith. Okay. Where the Pisces faith, you have to earn it too, but it's those situations where you kind of just have to like have it's right when we say just have faith, you know. Where I don't know. Okay, I don't know, but this has to be right. Right. This is where the prayer comes in, right? It's that liminal space where I don't know. So I'm hoping and opening myself up to this must be happening for a reason. Okay.
Wow.
And I think that kind of practice, right? I think Pisces energy, like true Pisces energy, they make great comedians because they can see the humor in all things. Right. Ooh, right? The faith not to freak out when things aren't going your way. Oh, so when I see someone, it's not the same thing, but it's related, right? When I see someone with a chock full 12th house, you know, I say one of the things you're learning is to recognize when it's time to let go of something. Yeah, right.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Do you know who Jelly Roll is?
that sounds familiar.
Okay,
Is he
well,
the country
look
singer?
him up sometime. He's a Sag with a Pisces rising, with Jupiter and Pisces rising. And I just saw him in concert. He's this big country singer. He's got a cross tattooed on his face, talk about faith. But
Yeah, yeah,
he was just like a preacher in, I was in this big center, but he was talking like a preacher, and I was like, this is so Jupiter. Like, just like we are
yeah,
gonna be okay, and blah blah blah. And like it was cool. Like a lot of faith in there. I don't mean
yeah,
look up Jelly Roll.
yeah.
You'll like it.
No, I think I know who you're talking. I think I know who you're talking about. Um,
Okay.
it's funny. Like two of my favorite artists, like my favorite guys. Something
Okay, say again.
tight.
Sorry, you froze. Say that again.
I was saying two of my favorite artists are Pisces suns with Sagittarius risings.
Nice. Interesting. So, okay, let's
There's
talk
like
about.
there's a soulful. There's like a there's a soulful message. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, no, totally, totally. And I think you have to have a lot of faith to live as an artist. When the world's telling you get a real job, do this stuff, and it takes a lot of faith to keep going after your dream. So that's another mark of an artist. So, okay, let's talk about, African American expressions of
Well,
faith.
one thing about this. Ooh, 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 ooh. That's a good one. That's a really good one. Um, so the first thing that comes to mind is putting faith into an African American context. Okay. Um, and an African American context kind of has to begin with slavery.
Hmm. Okay.
So right, so and we can see how it's going to manifest more of the feminine side of Jupiter, Pisces,
Yeah.
and the dark side of Pisces is blind faith, delusional faith, and the way faith was talked about in church growing up for me, it was kind of that blind, right? It easily went into that blind, delusional faith, right? Because if you need to have faith, but the truth is you're like you have a master that that is your God, right? Is they're kind of playing a proxy for you. So it's, you know, you gotta have to be healthily delusional to jump over that one and go straight to the big one and try to somehow have faith that there must be some reason, right, that I'm here enslaved. So
Interesting.
it's complicated, compared to, and I'm not saying all white people, but like the idea of the wealthy white man, right, and his idea of Jupiter, right? We can talk about the benefactor, okay, in a different way, right? But I think in the African American community, Jupiter mostly expressed through preachers, because
Yeah.
that was kind of the only avenue. When I'm talking about Jupiter or Sagittarius to someone, I'll say in the South for a long time, there'd be maybe one or two men, right, that would leave the African American community and they go off to college, okay, and they'd come back and they'd be the preacher in the church, the principal of the school, and the mayor,
Mm.
you know. And so to me, that's how I see it showing up. Where when I'm looking, especially nowadays, like white guys, big Jupiter, right? It's capitalism, almost 100% of the time, you
Yeah.
know, almost 100% of the time, it
No,
shows up
I
as
do
making
think that
making money, and you can argue that's the religion.
yeah, that's interesting. I do think,
Go ahead.
as someone looking from outside, African American culture does seem to be rich with faith, like having preachers and stuff that are, really solid with faith. And it, I think that's something to be celebrated because in white culture, things are a little more sterile and kind of like, well. But what's cool is the secret or manifesting, a lot of that is that transcends all races. Like anyone can get a vision for themselves and say, yeah, there are oppressions in place that maybe block people who are visioning from but we all have the ability to vision and create dreams for ourselves, basically. And that transcends all cultures, and as it should.
Well, it does. Well, it does, but if tracking the history of African American faith, right, is we can talk about transcendence, right, and the ones that fought for freedom and actually allowed us to get there, no doubt, that's Jupiter, right? That's Jupiter. But but part of, I think, African American Jupiter is we don't trust it.
Hmm.
It's not for us, right? So that's kind of where we have to relegate to, just to have faith and waiting for things to change, faith and waiting for things to get better, right? Because right, pure Jupiter, right, not in Aquarius, not conjunct Uranus, is right is not necessarily fighting for change, right? A big part of Jupiter is finding meaning in this, right? Finding that it's right. Part of Jupiter, true Jupiter, would be saying it's my dharma to be a slave, right? And that's the one that's in the field, whistling, right, doing their job and confident that everything is good.
Yeah. That's a very subversive idea. No, I can see what you're talking about is that, and actually astrology supports that. Even someone in prison has access to Jupiter energy. You can be locked up and then one day you have a transit to your Jupiter and you say, I can see all the possibilities of what I can do in this cell. And, you know, it is a subversive idea to think that we all have access to joy and faith no matter our circumstance. And we see that in people who are sick or in hospital beds and dying of cancer. They still have moments where they see the glory of the world, and that has to do with transits, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
So, I mean,
yeah.
I do believe spirit kicks body's ass and that all people have access to their Jupiter transits. No matter what oppressions exist outside, I do think we could support the idea that all people are endowed with faith energetically.
I would agree, but I think the cultural manifestations of Jupiter it's like junk food, you know? And I'm biased, but to me, like this astrological Jupiter thing that I'm in love with, it's so rich, you know, it's so rich because it serves the purpose of hitting the bullseye, hitting the bullseye. And I think all living creatures are moving towards satisfaction, you know, and there's a certain kind of satisfaction of of being on the right path that obviously nothing else can give you, but in order to even believe that there is a right path, right, Pisces, and to have the courage to go on an adventure to find it, Sagittarius, right? If you don't have those, right, if you can't lean into those and activate those when they are activated by transit, right? When Jupiter's activated by transit, right, you're gonna have difficulty, right? Um, one more piece about the Pisces Sagittarius Jupiter conversation is, in conventional astrological circles, they talk about Jupiter as good luck and expansion and all this stuff, but Jupiter rules Pisces too, right? And there's a famous saying, when one door closes, another door opens, right? That is a saying directly related to opportunities, but it starts off with one door closing, And I found with Jupiter transiting hitting my ascendant, okay? First time I quit football, right? And I started traveling around the world, right? I had to expand beyond football, okay? And the second time I quit my first marriage, right? And I expanded my idea of what marriage was. But there was a loss that came before the expansion.
Interesting. Yeah, I like that
And
because if
that's
we,
part of faith too. That's part of faith too, right? It's easy to, right? They say it's easy to break up when you have someone waiting for you, right? Is it's that part of the process of letting go, is that you've allowed yourself to connect to a new vision, and you realize that I can't have this new expansion if I keep holding on to this.
it's so interesting. We just cut a few things at the Moira Press, and I said to someone, I said, I'm just going to let God fill in the schedule. Like that's exactly what you're saying. Is like when you shut one door, you have to have faith that a new vision will emerge, and will have a full and glorious life. So I love what you're saying. Like, as another lesson I'm going to take from today is like, when one door closes, the other one opens. But that's true.
That's Jupiter, right? That's
Yeah.
a Jupiter person, a Sag person. They might say that, right? If a friend is going through a difficult time, because they've had that experience, so they can speak from that experience.
Yeah, interesting. Well, today's episode's a little short, and I think people will be mourning the loss of the time, but it was so good to see you. And is there any last thoughts you have on Jupiter?
Just back to the idea that I mentioned earlier, on Jupiter transits, right? Playing with this question, right, of asking, where have you been underestimating yourself? Because in order to activate Jupiter, you have to take a shot, and if you can make it, it's not really taking a shot.
Interesting. Wow. So it's the act of trying. Jupiter is like, just go ahead and
Yeah,
try, you know? Yeah,
yeah. Take your shot. Take your shot. Take your shot.
man. Thank you, Ricky. You're infinitely wise, and even though I'm 46, I still learn things from you.
I'm 47, so hey, that extra,
No
that extra
wonder.
time, that extra few months, right? A lot happened. Okay.
Well, I'll be 47 in a few weeks, and then I'll be dropping wisdom bombs on you.
Yeah. Well, I reached out to you first, right, for your wisdom. So that's how
Well,
we met.
that's true. Well, I reached out to you this time, so we're fair.
Yeah.
We're even now.
Okay.
All
All right.
right.
Good.
Thank you, Ricky. We'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you.